Have you ever thought about traveling the world and bringing your kids on the road and making the globe their classroom? Have you ever thought that there may be other lifestyles out there, something that is way more fitting to your personality and the personality of your children and the family unit as a whole? If so, I had similar thoughts. I'm telling you, when the monotony of the pandemic hit me, I had fantasies of taking my 7-year-old boy and my husband on a 1-year world travel tour. And I loved it. I'm so lit up when I travel, and so is my child, and so is my husband. But then, of course, reality sets in, and I'm thinking, oh my God, how could I even make this happen? How would it work? How could I educate my son while we are traveling? Because I am not a good homeschooler, believe me. But how could this all work? If you have similar questions, if you have similar desires that you would like to make travel a bigger part of your life and figure it out how it could work for the whole family unit, then I have the perfect show for you today. Hi, I'm Bettina. Welcome to my channel. Today I have an awesome guest for you. I'm super excited. So her name is Celeste Orr. Celeste has been traveling with her children and her hubby for 7 years straight. So she is a certified adventurer and out of the box thinker. And today she teaches parents how to find more adventure in their lives, have bigger dreams and deeper relationships with their kids. So I'm so excited about this video. Watch it in full, and please, please, please take advantage of the awesome resources that Celeste provided for us in the show notes below. They are gold. And now, welcome, Celeste. Hi.
Yes, thank you so much. As Bettina said, my name is Celeste Orr, and I have a platform called Togetherness Redefined, where I talk to parents about just the things that she has said. So I want to tell you just a tiny bit about our story before we dig into everything. In the early 2000s, when I got married, I quickly realized that the traditional model of 9 to 5 employment and those kinds of things weren't really working for myself and my husband. So when we had our first child, that really amplified for us. And we ended up moving to Sydney, Australia. We come from rural Georgia. We're a regular family from rural Georgia. And we had an opportunity to go to Sydney, Australia for college. And so we went there, and while we were there, we experienced a new culture, a new way of doing life, and it really changed us forever. So when we came home a year and a half later, we had this love for travel and this love for adventure in our hearts, and we really didn't know what to do with it. So when we had our second child in Australia and we came home to America, we knew, we wanted to settle back into life. We wanted to build a family and careers and, get our kids into school. But very quickly, we realized that sometimes those two things don't really, coincide. So the traditional model of school and work life really didn't work for us. And we got ourselves in a lot of ruts. So in 2013, we sold everything we had, bought an Airstream travel trailer, and we ended up traveling for the next 7 years full time across America. We saw 49 out of 50 states and so many national parks together, and really ended up embracing the concept of World School and Road School for our kids. And it has been a huge blessing to our family and just a tremendous adventure in redefining togetherness to find what works for your family in particular.
Yeah, I find this a fascinating story, and I would like you to please walk us back to 2013 or even the years before, because I am guessing you mentioned that you and your husband, you come from the rural south where just going by an Airstream and going traveling full time for years is not what people usually do. So how did you find your way to say, because I'm sure you got a lot of pushback, right? Don't do that, and how are you going to live and so on, and your kids, they need to go to school, all of these I'm sure, questions that your families and your friends had. How did you navigate that? And how did you then come to the conclusion, no, this is what we're going to do? I mean, that takes gumption.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, when a family is in pain, that can sometimes be the courage that we need to go after what is right for us. And that was our story. We were experiencing one of those crossroads moments, as a family, we're like, we're not meeting our personal goals. We don't really feel alive. We really feel like we don't know what to do. So we just said basically to our family and friends, we're just going to try this for a few years, but everyone still thought we were crazy. I mean, at that time in 2013, there wasn't a large nomad community. There were some people traveling full time, but they were mostly single, from what we could find. But we found just a few other families that were traveling full time, just on a trial basis. We didn't say this is our new life or this is what we're going to do forever. We just said, maybe we'll try this for a couple years or 5 years, see some national parks, and then reassess. And that really helped our family feel better about it. But still, there was pushback, and we really had to find the personal courage to say, you know what, we need to lean into our family. We really need to give ourselves a shot. And that's what we did, and we ended up loving it. So
I find this a fascinating point of view that you actually did that out of pain. That you and your husband, how old were the kids at the time in 2013? You have two boys. How old were they?
I do. Yes. They were 5 and 8. So they were little guys. And we had been homeschooling for a little while because when we came home from Australia, we just went back to our, rural Georgia hometown. And we loved it there. We loved being with our family. But the education system really wasn't something that we felt would really serve our oldest child. He was very energetic, I'll say, and he was very gifted or bright, but he couldn't sit in a desk. So we just tried homeschooling a tiny little bit as a preschooler, and he really started thriving. And, we found that his energy could really serve him and his education. So we kept going with it.
What did you yourself learn? How did you become a homeschooler? I mean, this is not so many of us, we were forced to become homeschoolers in 2020, but for you, it was a choice. And this, is it just you, or does your husband teach the boys too? How does that work in real life, homeschooling?
Yeah, so I talk about this a lot on togethernessredefined.com because I find so many parents have the same question, and it can feel so daunting, like I'm now a homeschooler, but for us, literally, I took $50 to Barnes and Noble. And I said, what can I do with this $50? What books can I purchase, for myself, for my kids, workbooks, novels, what can I get for that little tiny investment? And I found myself every single year doing the same thing, really a very small investment and so many free resources online. So, it takes a lot of trial and error to figure out what works for your kids. And some kids really love online learning. They love to, watch a lesson, do the work, get that check mark, and move on. Other kids are out of the box. They don't really thrive in that environment. So for my kids, when they were little, when we started, and they had a problem with screen time. So when they saw a screen, they wanted to be on it all the time, So
Mm-hmm.
and it would affect their attitude and their energy, and it caused a lot of issues, for our family. Now that I'm older, I understand that a lot of kids who have a lot of big ideas, they get overwhelmed with screens, So we've never been able to rely on online school. So we really have built this model of world schooling, using our surroundings, traveling, and also using novels and literature based materials to learn even things like physics. Right now, my kids are learning physics through literature. And it's really opened things up for us. And I've been able to also lean on some researchers who have done research about this model.
And is it now when it comes to academics, like your boys, do you have to follow a certain, tests every year? Because like I come from Austria, I don't even know if homeschooling is allowed. In America, it's way more common, than it is in the European parts that I'm familiar with. So world schooling, you choose what you teach your child, right? Or do you follow a curriculum and then there is a test and you know that your boy's performing equal to other kids? How does that work, please, in terms of academics?
Yeah, so every country, every state within a country can be different. And so even within America, different
Or
states have different
both?
requirements. Yes. So, if someone's listening to this, watching this, and they're thinking, I don't know if this would work in my area, I would say, work with your local administrators and research your local laws yourself. That's really what I help, people do, because it really can't. I mean, you can get yourself into trouble, obviously, if you're doing something that's not allowed in your area of the world. So in our area, we are allowed to choose our own curriculum, but we do have to do standardized testing every 1 to 3 years based on what state we're in. So we've been based in Georgia during our travels, and they do every 3 years, but now we're living in Maine and it's every year. So yeah, we have that sort of over our heads as like a benchmark of how we know that the kids are progressing in what they need to progress in.
I mean, homeschooling certainly opens up a whole different world of possibilities, when it comes to just how and where you can want to live your life and how you want to educate. With my boy, so he's a first grader, for a whole year, school has been closed. There is 1 hour of education per day delivered through his computer in that case, and he's not doing that well with the screen time either. So I was wondering if this is even the right model for us to move forward or to move into. What if there are parents and you think, okay, so I don't want to deprive my child of social interactions,
Right.
and B, I am not a gifted teacher, which I am not. My husband, it's like, we are not the gifted teachers here. Is there a way to navigate and open the door to homeschooling, but you don't do it yourself? How can you do it if you don't want to be the teacher?
Right. Yeah. So I think there are lots of options out there. And when I was actually I had just graduated college, and I studied as a sociologist, not as a teacher either. But I had a family who lived close by, and the mom was a nurse, and they needed to homeschool because they were having some issues with one of their children. And I ended up homeschooling her children their first grade year. So she would bring them over and I would do school with them, and then she would pick them up. So in some parts of the world, that is completely allowed, and it's even encouraged, because you could have 3 or 4 kids there together. And we had a lot of fun together. Like, I just remember those days very fondly. I'm still connected to those kids who are now in college, and one's in medical school. So that can be a really fun way to get social interaction and to give the parents a break. I would also just encourage you that you don't have to be a gifted teacher. Really, all you have to do is read with your kid, talk with your kid, and explore ideas together. I mean, math is a whole nother thing. So I have gotten a lot of help with math because it's not my favorite. I don't want to do that. I've gotten a lot of help, and there are teachers online who are real teachers, and not an online program, who will work with your child for a certain subject. There's also things like Outschool.
What is
um,
that?
so
What is Homeschool?
Outschool is a platform where you can just buy a class. And so teachers, a lot of them are certified teachers, they put various classes on the platform for anything from like art, science, history, reading, writing, all the way through high school. And we've used that for some really fun things, to explore ideas that I have no, knowledge about. And then there are other platforms. My son is using a platform to learn Japanese right now. And because he has wanted to learn Japanese for probably 4 years. And I was just honest with him. I'm like, I don't even know how to navigate any of that. So he found an online program himself, and he works on it every day with this online platform, and it really works for him. So, and obviously there is Khan Academy, which is free. And if you're looking into alternative solutions for your child for any subject area, I would recommend going to Khan Academy. We use that for math. Starting this year, we're using it for algebra 2 and seventh grade math, which is a huge blessing for me. I mean, they really do it right over there at Con.
I'm very interested in now also bringing that homeschooling onto the road, because from my experience, I love traveling, and we have been traveling with Hunter since he was a little boy, like a few months old. And I always see there is a growth spurt happening. If we go somewhere with him, there's something about it, being exposed to different cultures, just doing things that he usually does not do. There is a big growth spurt.
Absolutely.
So, from your experience of being 7 years on the road, what is there like a sweet spot? Like when you say, okay, take your kids at least, or this is how you start traveling, take them out for at least a few weeks per year or so. Like, where do we start to bring the travel in, and how do we do that? Because how did you do that? Setting up a budget, planning, how much time should we use?
I think really you can start anywhere, whatever feels right for your family. One vacation, you can add an educational element into that and see how your child does with it, or what you like. What really brings you to life, what brings your child to life. There are national parks all over the world, and in America, I know that our national parks have what's called a junior ranger program. So they have a workbook, and when you show up at the national park, you just say, we would like to do junior ranger. They'll give you a workbook. You go around the national park. You can go to a ranger led program or a movie that they have, and your child gets to really, take their own pencil and their own paper in this workbook and fill it out. For years, that was the basis of our social studies and our science curriculum. And then we would find a concept in one of those books that we wanted to know more about. So we would, research it, buy a picture book or something, and we would get a read aloud book, and we would just read aloud on that topic for a while, so that became the basis of our entire curriculum, was junior ranger. And when they complete it, they get like a little badge. And my kids collected, I don't know, 40 or something of those badges. And they're so proud, that they have a token of, I've been to Carlsbad Caverns and I've learned about bats. And here's my token. So I did a piece for Best Self magazine a while back when we had just started traveling, a few years into traveling. And I talked about, the myths that come up for families. And one of those is, when you say, yes, we travel around in an Airstream, sometimes people can start to think, oh, are you in poverty? Like, are you roughing it? Do you live in RV parks? And as we're recording it, there's a new movie out called Nomadland. And we just recently watched that movie. And it is about people who are in poverty and who are finding a hard time working. as a sociologist, I love that movie. I love that it really highlights the need that is out there, but I don't believe it fully represents the nomad community, because there are many, many, many families who are traveling around. They're not in poverty. They are making a choice to use travel and to use different ways of life to educate their children and to educate themselves. I have had a second childhood during this whole thing, and it has been magnificent. At the same time, some people can start to think, oh, they're really lucky. They have loads of cash in the bank and they have it all together. How lucky are they? I love to also bust that myth, because it's just not true. No matter how much you travel or get out and see the world, or what opportunities you afford yourselves, there are sacrifices that you will have to make, and sometimes it will be tough. So I know that was a big question and sort of a loaded answer there, but I really do think you can start anywhere, whatever you're comfortable with. And as far as the money is concerned, we didn't have loads of cash. We really didn't have anything. We just found that we wanted to move money, rather than having two cars or brand new cars. We could get a used car, a truck, and we could have gotten even a used camper, to go around with. We felt like we wanted to do it longer term, so we bought a new Airstream, and that has really served us well. But every family's so different. We've met families on the road with all kinds of setups, changed their setup. You really can start anywhere.
Yeah, I think this is the whole point of our conversation, that it is never too late to really start designing your life in the way that's best for you and for your family. And
Yes.
just redefining, as you say, what is important to me. I think 2020 really focused us all on our values and what are the non-negotiables anymore. Your kids are now 13 and 15. So when if I would have them in front of me right now, and I would ask the boys, hey, do you like it? Do you like the way that you are educated? What would they say?
That is a great question. And it's also something that we talk about a lot, because every year we only operated on a 1 year basis for our family. Every summer we would sit down as a family and ask them, how is it going for you? Don't try to please us. Don't just say what you think we want to hear. Tell us what's going right, what needs a shift. And sometimes, they said, this is really hard, or we would like to make more friends, or we would like to stay somewhere longer, which honestly is why we're taking some time off the road right now to build a home base that is very strong, and to launch from here into shorter trips. Because one of our children did let us know, it's hard to make friends when we're not here more than a few months, or a few weeks. So if you set them down right now at 15 and 13, I think they would tell you that they love homeschooling because they don't have to wake up early in the morning. And they love the freedom that they have, that does when they compare their education with their peers, that they get to study what they love and what they're curious about, and that they have, a desire for a particular career. And then they go down that road and they decide, no, I'm not really interested in architecture. I'm now interested in this other thing. So I hope they would see the value in it. They talk a lot about the places that we've been. They remember more than I do, and at the same time, they would say, like every child in pandemic world right now, as we're recording this, they need their friends too. They are so thankful that they have a hard time understanding why kids are, this way or that way. Why are kids getting depressed because of the pandemic and things like that? And I have to tell them, not every family spends time together the way that we do. You know, not every parent gets to work from home. You know, not every parent knows there's this whole other way to do life. But they, just like everybody else right now, they were ready to get back with their friends,
Yes,
eventually.
yes, yes,
So,
yes. So what I'm hearing is that you really walk your talk, that the kids appreciate that lifestyle that you have offered them, and you're checking with them every year, is this still what you want to do or not, and then listen to them. And if, like right now, it's the time, it's the right time to settle for a year or two or three, whatever it is, then this is what you do as well. The openness to just really craft a life that is right for all family members.
right, right. Even if we can't see how to make that work, we are committed to putting everything on the table. Yeah.
My viewers are women, often in the 40s and 50s, who have had a career already that they may have crafted very carefully, and that is not easy for them to give up. For you guys, it was, I think, a little easier because you were young and you were not so settled in a specific career path yet back then. So for you, the choice to make, okay, so we do homeschool and do it all our way, may have been a little bit easier than for the parents today. What advice do you have for the ones that have been, they're more settled in the ways already? How can you still help them see what's possible out there?
Yes, I love this question because that is why I reached out to you originally. You know, I connected to your message of it's never too late and the summit you did in the past about that. So, as we're recording this, I just turned 39 yesterday. So, I'm on the brink of 40.
Congratulations.
Yes. But you're right. It was sort of easy for us 7 years ago to really make that choice, honestly, because we had careers that weren't really working out. So my husband was in a career, and that was part of our pain. He was in a church career and it wasn't working out. We knew that we needed something different and we needed more experience. And I was working for a nonprofit that I really loved, and I loved my work, but it was drawing me away from my family. So there was this pain point of, we knew we needed to homeschool and we knew we needed to do life differently, but my husband didn't necessarily want to be the one always doing the homeschool. Like you said, it was really my passion. So how do we navigate that? And especially if you're older and you've had a career and you're making a shift, I've had to work remotely, online for the past actually 10 years to make my family life work. So a lot of that has been full time online, and I'm going to be honest, I had people that I knew well, and even strangers, come to me and say, what about your career?
Mhm.
You have advanced degrees, you've done all this work. How dare you sacrifice that for this pipe dream of yours to what? Look at like weird things across the country. And, sometimes it really did hurt me. And it made me rethink, am I crazy? Like, am I sacrificing too much? Am I doing something that's just not right? But I always could find someone, and a lot of them are online, who would speak life into that dream. The people who have really changed the world for the better are people who have stepped out of the box. And the people who are making the most difference in the world right now on important issues are the ones who have done life differently and really redefined what we think about when we think about things like education or family life, or some of the social justice issues that are in our world today. It's really not the people who are mainstream who are making the most difference. When we look at research and all the books that are out there, I read over 50 personal development books every year because
Wow.
I love it. I love everyone's story is different, which is why I'm a writer and author, because I know those resources change lives. And, it was really those resources that helped me continue on and realize, every day though, I have to coach myself and say, am I doing what's right for my family? How do I know? And then dig into one of those resources that remind me the change makers are the people who look weird to the large majority of us.
So please, as in closing our time together out here, would you what are your like 2 or 3 um, best tips of advice that you can give a mother who is now in her 40s or potentially 50s to make this internal shift happen? Because I think this is where it all begins, and to really find the courage to go for a life change that could be drastic. If you have just like 2 or 3 tips to wrap it up, that would be marvelous, please.
Absolutely. So, my number one tip would be to invest in yourself. Set aside time every day, whether, whatever you have to do to make that possible. Get up early, stay up late, whatever your choice is. Invest in yourself every day, whether that's a book, an online program, or if it's journaling, whatever serves you best. But really take time to think about what your mindsets are, what they need to shift to, and find someone that inspires you in your particular area or your particular life.
When you say invest in yourself, you mean invest in your following the dream, in getting more inspiration, in getting more different perspectives.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
And it also invest time. That was mainly what I was talking about. But there does come a time when we do need to invest money, and set aside even maybe a budget line item for ourselves where we say, even if it's $15 a month, I'm going to buy one book a month, that I can really use just for me to speak into my life. And sometimes, you know, I have been a huge fan of online programs. I've become a fan of those because I love the way that you can really connect with a teacher anywhere in the world, and glean wisdom from her or him. And I have, a program myself called 21 Mindset Shifts for people who want to make a big change, because I find that it really is those mindsets that hold us back a lot of times. And when I look back on the changes I've had to make, I remember those first 2 weeks that we lived in our camper, waking up every day with this fear of, are we homeless? Like, are we doing something so weird that we shouldn't be doing it? All the shoulds, and the time it takes to shift those mindsets, you cannot do in the back of your mind. You really have to do that by investing time, talent, attention, and sometimes even money. So that would be my number one tip. And my number two would be to stay hopeful, stay curious about life. And honestly, I love working with women in their 40s, 50s, 60s. I even had a lady recently who is in her 70s, and she came into my writing program because she has a small granddaughter who loves the bedtime stories she tells them. And she said, I really need to turn this into a picture book before my time on earth is done, because my granddaughter, her memory is going to be limited. I want to have a picture book that she can take with her for the rest of her life. So she went through my writing program, and she has been, I don't know, I just love her. I get a little teary thinking about her, because it has really been a critical time in her life to realize, even no matter your age, our days are numbered, but the legacy we can leave for our family, our friends, other women is really limitless when we take the time and the attention to think about those things. So never lose hope and never stop investing in yourself.
Yes, thank you. And I would like to add another point here, please, that I just thought about, and that is to never lose curiosity about how could it work. Like if you just keep continuing asking the question, but what if you open up the windows of possibility again? And for example, I just thought, listen, you could try homeschooling, even if it's only for a trimester or a year. It will not make or break the academic future of your child, but you could try it out, and also try it out in ways that you laid out, that it doesn't have to necessarily be me who does the homeschooling all the time. There are the online resources, but I can also hire somebody. So to just try it out and see how it fits for you right now. And also, for example, if you want to go on the road with your child and your children, it doesn't have to be traveling for 7 years like you did, Celeste. It can be for 7 days, or it can be really, even if you choose to buy an Airstream like you guys did. You know, my initial thought was, oh my God, then I'm with my family in such close quarters for such a long time. But then, you know, what if I could still make it work by, you know, going in the Airstream for a few weeks and then renting an Airbnb
Right.
for a month,
Right.
you know? So just being open with curiosity, how could it work? And not an all or nothing kind of point of view. I think that would be my number 3 that I would add, just to think about, okay, but what if I could make it work? You can come up with a lot of creative ideas.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there are families doing all sorts of, all combinations of things. And actually, the Airbnb idea is our next adventure. We really hope that we can get into some foreign countries and experience, even more different cultures as our children are now teenagers and entering their college years, that we can access some of those other opportunities. There really is no limit to how could it work. There are loads of books by people like Ken Robinson, and there's also a guy called Blake Bowles who does research on education that's out of the box for children. Cal Newport has some information out there. So there's really, no limit to what you can do and the avenues that you can explore with your curiosity.
And if you have any more questions, please leave us comments below this video. We are here to answer, and we are here to help you to make your dream of traveling and of creating a life that's uniquely yours. We're here to help you.